My name is Hoang. I am a movement specialist, movement coach. I come from a background of sports and physical therapy. All my life, I was an athlete playing basketball, track, rugby, parkour. And in school, I studied physical therapy. Didn't follow through and become a physical therapist. I kind of went a different route, but still super passionate about movement and about injury prevention and all of that. I started parkour in 2015. I was a personal trainer over at Equinox. I was weightlifting 4 to 5 times a week, and I was running around and doing parkour, jumping on top of stuff, falling on top of stuff 3 times a week as well. And I noticed that at around maybe 6 months into parkour, my knee started to hurt, but it never really hurt before. It started to hurt when I was running and jumping. It didn't hurt when I was lifting, but it started to hurt when I was running and jumping, which I thought was weird because it didn't really happen when I was younger. And so I thought, okay, I guess I'm getting old. And so still continue to strength train, still continue to try and rehab my knee with a lot of physical therapy techniques, going to physical therapists, going to massage therapists, and trying to figure out what's going on with my knee. I ended up having, I think it was patellar tendonitis in my knee, and no one could figure out how to make my knee not hurt. And it sucked because I love to run and I love to jump. And if my therapist is saying, yeah, you should stop jumping, that's not going to be possible because I need to move in order to be myself. Like that really is in my personality, is being able to move. So just went on a really big rabbit hole and trying to figure out how to fix my knee. And that kind of got me to where I am right now, training with and for Goata movement systems. Through their movement system, and I'll explain about it in a little bit, I was able to rehab my knee and get back into parkour. And I can confidently say that my knee pain is gone, which is awesome. Like I can run and jump and it's really cool because I never thought that I would be there again. And it took, so I started parkour 2015, 2016, knee started to hurt. Had knee pain from 2016 to 2019, was trying to figure it out, could not figure it out, was told to stop jumping. And then 2019 is when I got into Goata and when I started to rehab my knee under their blueprint, under their framework. And now it's 2020 and my knee is pretty good. So it's been about a year that I've been undergoing this process of changing my movement through Goata. Yeah. The way that I came across Goata movement was, funny enough, through Instagram. I think it's really interesting how the fitness industry has really gravitated towards Instagram to help promote different techniques and to promote just like advice and suggestions and things like that. And I kind of got into this rabbit hole. First, I started looking at WEC method. I started looking at functional patterns. And what really drew me to Goata and what really compelled me to go to their route was they thought of movement as a continuous transfer of energy from one side to the other. And movement is starting at the foot, which I thought was really interesting because nothing that I've ever studied looked at the foot and ankle complex in addition to the entirety of the body. What really spoke to me about Goata was they looked at your entire body moving as a system rather than one individual part or one individual muscle. For example, a lot of people who have knee issues, if you go to a therapist or like a functional trainer, they'll be like, oh, that means that your glute medius needs to be strengthened. And that's that one muscle that's going to help strengthen your knee. But it's not just that. It's everything. It's your foot and ankle. It's your hip. It's your shoulders. It's your spine. It's everything working together because our bodies don't work in isolation. Everything works together while we're moving. So that is what really drew me to them, is they're looking at the body as a whole and movement as a transfer of energy, which to me, it makes sense. So the founder of Goata, his name is Jose Gil Bosch, or we call him Gil for short. I guess his background is really similar to a lot of the Goata coaches. He's been hurt and he was trying to figure out a way to not be hurt. So Gil right now, he's about 55 years old, but when he was 27, he had 3 major back surgeries. Before he was 30, he had 3 major back surgeries. And his doctors told him that he pretty much could not move anymore because, well, obviously they cut up his back, his spine. And so his journey, really similar to mine, is let's figure out a way for me to move so I can be happy and so I don't hurt anymore. And so the therapist that he went to, the doctors that he went to, they weren't helping him out. So he sought out different mentors. A really huge mentor of his was Pete Egoscue. He still has his postural program, I think, going around, and highly recommend Pete Egoscue too. But what was different about Egoscue's method was that they're looking at your posture as a whole, your body as a whole, instead of looking at individual joints and individual muscles. So Gil, he studied under Pete Egoscue, and what really changed things for him was in the early 2000s, or maybe 2003, 4, 2007. That's when people, like regular people, got easy access to slow motion video through like an iPad. You can take a video with your iPad and you can scrub through it and watch tape in slow motion. And so Gil decided to start watching tape, and he looked at 4 different populations. He looked at babies and toddlers who are learning how to walk. He looked at indigenous peoples who don't have our modern day comforts like chairs or shoes, like padded shoes, or cars or desks, things like that. He looked at multi-decade athletes, so athletes who had 20, 30-year careers like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Deion Sanders, these people who played for a long time, made a lot of money, and didn't get hurt. And lastly, he looked at the master athletes, so athletes who are 80, 90, and 100 years old who are still moving around now. And so using slow motion video and taking a look at those 4 populations, he was able to see that, oh wow, they all move the same. They have the same movement pattern when they're looking forward. And so he really took a deep dive into this and tried to repattern himself to move like these 4 populations. And when he did that, he found that his body was able to move much more efficiently. And because of that, he was able to get out of pain. He is around 55, 56, something like that right now, but he runs multiple triathlons a year and he golfs every single day. And that's like walking 5 miles a day, which is great compared to when he was 30 and couldn't move. All of the Goata coaches' goal really is just for people to live pain-free, because it's an option. Like being in pain, you can get out of pain and you can move pain-free. That's totally an option for you, especially for our children. That's super important. If we can teach our kids to move correctly in space, then as they get older, they're going to be pain-free as well. What Goata stands for, it's an acronym, and it stands for 2 things actually. It can stand for greatest of all time athletes, but usually it stands for greatest of all time actions. What Goata really is a forward-moving locomotive pattern that's derived from crawling. So when we're walking and when we're running, it's really just stand-up crawling. When a baby is crawling, it's looking like this. So if I were to slow that down and I take a step and I'm here, what this ends up being when we're upright, it turns into this, and this turns into our bow. Now if I want to move forward, I'll pop back down. Now I'm going to move forward, and what that turns into was this, and that was our corner. So we went from here to here, and standing here to here. If we're moving forward in space, we don't piston forward like we're a robot, but really we are rotating as we're moving forward. So it's more of a rotation rather than a piston. So like I said, Goata really starts from the ground up. So I'm going to put my foot up on this chair and kind of show you. So our foot is going to be the first thing that hits the ground. So when we hit that ground with our foot, we want to be hitting on this outside part of our foot. We don't want to be hitting the ground with this inside part of our feet. If I pressurize off the inside part of my foot, you'll see everything wants to collapse and move in. So while we are moving forward in space, we want to be on this outside part of our foot. Now we can really focus on our hips. So when we're moving forward in space, when I'm running or jumping or anything forward, my hips have to be behind my rib cage. I have to be here. If I'm here, I am not ready to move forward. This is not powerful at all. So I really have to get my hips back and behind. When my hips are back and behind me, this puts me in a much more ready position. All right, we're gonna zoom out a bit so you can see my feet. Like I mentioned before, our movement really starts at our feet. So it's super important that we get our feet correct. The stronger part of our foot is going to be the outside portion of our foot. Just like the outside portion of our hand is the strongest portion of our hand. There's much more surface area, muscle and bone here to really support it. First things first, on your feet are straight because you're moving straight. We're going to be on the outside part of our foot. This is outside, this is inside. Notice that when I came inside, everything likes to collapse. So if we're not correct at our foot level, everything upstream is going to be disorganized. So I really hammer on about, hey, get your feet right, foot straight, inside ankle bone high. So you're on the outside part of your foot, everything opened up. Now we got to worry about our hips. When we're moving forward in space, our hips have to be slightly behind our rib cage. I'm much more ready to move forward here versus here. I'm going to be a really slow runner if I'm running like this, and it just looks awkward. So butt back to the sky, hips are behind your rib cage. I'm ready to go. So right now we have our foot ready, we have our hips ready, and then now I'll talk about how we generate energy, we load energy. Inside ankle bone is high, foot is straight, outside edge of my foot, butt is back into the sky, and all I'm going to do from here is open up my hip 22.5 degrees to the right. So this creates our bow. This is where all of our energy is loaded. This is where we're taking our impact. Now if I want to move forward, I'm going to do the opposite. Every action has an opposite reaction, and it's going to be called a corner. So this is our bow. Looking at this leg, this is our corner. Everything will internally rotate in. Hips rotated in, femurs rotating in, tibias rotated in, heel comes away from the body. Now I'm loaded up on this side. My left hip is in a bow, everything is opened and ready to go. So that's really how we move forward in space. Another really interesting thing about Goata is that we don't train with our heels down. For example, when you do a deadlift or a clean or a back squat or a front squat, at least I've always been told, keep your heels down. When you're squatting, keep your heels down. When you're deadlifting, drive through your heels. But when we're moving forward in space and running, we don't want to heel strike. We don't want to drive with our heels to jump. We don't want to drive with our heels to sprint. This is going to plant our foot into the ground, and we don't want to do that. We want to be quick and efficient and moving. So rather than planting our heel into the ground, rather we'd want to be more on the balls of our foot. Because of the way that we train or the way that we move in our society, a lot of people's hips are stuck open and they tend to walk like this. This is a lot of disorganization. So when our hip gets stuck like this, it never knows how to rotate like this. And that's when we have a lot of hip issues and back issues. It really does start from the feet. Then we take a look at the hips, what they're doing. We have to see if the hips know how to open, if they know how to close, and if all of this is moving in synchronicity with the rest of your body. Now we're going to go outside and I'll show you 3 or 4 different drills that you can do at home to get you started with your Goata Recode journey. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yes, I love it. High five.
So the first exercise that will get you started on this journey, they're called rockers. And you're going to be on the floor for this one, sitting just like this in the seiza position. So from the back, my toes are pointing together, heels are out. From the side, it's really important to take a look at what my hips are doing. When I'm here, my hips are not dumped under me, and I don't want to be like this. I want to elongate my spine and push my hips back. So you're in this position, this seiza position, hands are on the ground, hips are pushed back, and all you're going to do is rock forward and rock back. And you're trying to keep this nice long spine as you rock forward and as you rock back. Looking up, keeping a nice long spine. What we're looking for here is activation of your hip muscle around here. What this is going to train this hips back position that we need to move forward. A lot of the times we're stuck here and we don't want to be here. We want those hips back as you move forward. You can get around 3 sets of 30. That'll be a good start. Nice +1 is as you're doing this movement, see if you can gently push your knees out so you create tension in your hips and rock forward and rock back. And those are called ground rockers, just rocking back and forth. There's actually a movement that babies do when they're learning how to walk or learning how to stand. So it's interesting that we're gonna go back to progress you forward. The next one that we're gonna do, they're called groundwork corners. So what this looks like, really similar to that first drill that we did, those rockers, you're gonna be in this position. Legs are out at about a 45-degree angle, making sure my hips are pushed back. All you're gonna do is rock forward and try to bring your heels outside of your body, so heels come away. Then I'm gonna rock back and reset to my original position. Rock forward, heels come away, and rock back. So this drill that I'm going to do is called a drop-in. It's this position that we get in when we're landing and when we're moving forward. I'm going to use the chucks that we have. These are our Goata chucks. What they help with is it helps you keep your heel off the ground. So all my weight is on this leg right here. Now, I'm going to push my butt back and up to the sky. All I'm going to do now is front leg. We're going to open that knee 22.5 degrees out. Back leg, we're going to turn our heel out. Try holding this position for anywhere up to 2 minutes, 3 sets of 2 minutes. The last drill we're going to go through is a walking drill. So something you can do while you're out taking your dogs out for a walk, or if you're grocery shopping, pushing a cart. And these are called spinner walks. And what this is meant to do is to help incorporate this rotation in your brain as you're moving forward. So all you're doing, staying on the outside part of your feet, you're gonna step, spin, step, spin, step, spin, step, spin. We're just learning how to get this rotation that a lot of us are